Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm making this simple, as short as possible video for Miss Nappy Original Girl. I saw her video and how she thought about the Trayvon Martin case. Now, if you haven't seen the video I made about the truth of the case, I'm going to say it again and say it very quickly and simple. Both parties were wrong. Trayvon Martin was wrong and so was George Zimmerman. And as much as people want to just say George Zimmerman is the true problem and culprit of this, he isn't. It was both these men. Trayvon Martin was not 12 years old, he was 17. He was almost a fully grown man that could go into the military and kill someone with a gun. So the thing that not many people want to hear is that both of these people made serious mistakes. No matter if the 911 operator told Zimmerman, and I said this before in my video, this is just stating it, not saying it was true. If the 911 operator told him to go outside and check for Trayvon or not, he went outside and that was his mistake. But Trayvon Martin made a similar mistake because he had options, and not one black person that I've heard on the radio, on television, or in the street has been willing to admit that this kid who could have ran away, who could have called instead of his girlfriend saying this is a strange cracker following me, could have called the 911 himself and called for the police. Could have knocked on the door of any of those people in that area and say, please call the police, I'm being followed, or scream to the top of his lungs in that area, I'm being followed, please help me, call the police. None of that was done. Trayvon Martin had the street mentality to turn and fight. And this is the reason why, as black Americans, African Americans, not European Americans, not Caribbean, anyone who's a Caribbean American, or someone who's from Barbados, who is from Guyana, who is from Jamaica, a completely different situation. They have their instances, yes, of violence and attitudes of the streets, but no one's the same like American, African American blacks. Putting it simple, our own attitude of the streets is destroyed our community. Because the activists, like I said in my previous video, the only thing they care about is power and money. As much as people say we don't have any rights, your own activists, your own organizers, your own civil rights leaders care more about money than they care about you. I have met people in the NAACP and they say it very clearly. In many cases, when you see an Al Sharpton, a Jesse Jackson, a Jesse Jackson Jr., or anybody else who is from the organizations that I have mentioned, or even more, in Acorn as well, the American Action Network, it makes no difference. They get paid every time they go there, not just by donations, but by lobbyists. The people that's supposed to fight for our civil rights, and I'm a mixed American. The same thing as the rights for you if you're pure black is the same for me. They care more about getting money and influence than they care about telling the truth. And this is the truth. Trayvon was wrong as much as Zimmerman. They made the right call. Trayvon attacked him. He could have ran off or called the cops, and he chose to fight. Just like he's been acting when he was in a gang. The gang mentality, the street mentality has destroyed the community, and nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to change it. Nobody wants to fight it. Look what's been going on for the last couple of days. From one coast to another, we have acts of aggression from black people going out and causing havoc. Nobody wants to say it. Now, Miss Nappy Original Girl, I heard what you said saying, I don't know what I'm going to tell my kids in my classes. What the hell am I going to tell my son? Well, I'm going to be honest to you. I have a 16-year-old son. I may be having problems with my ex-wife because of him, but whatever amount that I could tell my son, I've always said that it's important to understand where you come from. But it's not always important to follow what you come from. You don't have to follow what you are. I look Spanish, but I am mixed. I grew up with my mother, who is a mixed black woman. I may be Puerto Rican, but as far as anyone's concerned, because I look so Spanish, I'm supposed to act Spanish. I've acted whatever way I wanted. I've lived between both worlds. And I'm proud I have, because I don't have to be what the entire community says I have to be. I be who I want to be. So for you, Miss Nappy Original Girl, You want to know what you could say to your kids in your class and your son? Don't follow the streets. Be mindful of what goes on in the streets, but you do not have to follow the ways of the street. Be different. Be completely different, because the streets will destroy you. Our communities are so corrupt now. It doesn't matter saying we need to strengthen our community. No, we need to get rid of the culture in our community. No matter how you say we need to strengthen it, the culture in the community is so corrupt it makes no difference. It's not about the Constitution, Miss Nappy Original Girl. It's not about the justice system. It's not about white people anymore. It isn't, as much as someone wants to say it. It's about us. And nobody wants to see that we are the problem. We are our worst enemy. We are the worst hated people in this country, and we're the ones who hate us the most. I'm sure you grew up in the streets. I've grown up in New York. I've been to Brooklyn. I lived in Mount Vernon, where they mostly had the worst crime back in the 90s, as much in Brooklyn. And in the Bronx. I live in the Bronx. Crime here is not great. I've lived in 3 different boroughs, and I understand how dangerous it is. But the borough doesn't make the people. We make the people. The area that we live in is destroying us, not because of the area, but the culture we built going into this area. Please understand, ladies and gentlemen, including you, Miss Nappy Original Girl, as much as people want to strengthen the community, unfortunately, the worst part of the community is the streets. And it's a very ugly side of black culture that nobody wants to clean up. Because when it comes down to it, the best way to end this is to admit that we have to destroy the gangs, the drug dealers, the headbangers. That means we have to think on our own families. That means we have to turn in our own families who we know are corrupt, and also know that there's a good chance we can be hurt. If we don't, we'll never be free. And we'll destroy ourselves well before the white people or Spanish or Asian. Particularly me being mixed. They'll come after me more fast than they'll come after anyone else. Who wants a mixed blood man in their society? The persons they'll go after first will be me, because I'm the scorn of what makes the communities. Who wants a mixed blood man that is from the other side if the wars really start? They want to get rid of me. I'll be the first one to go, and so would my son. So if you think I wouldn't be safe, I'll be the first one to go, because if you want a pure race, a really purest race as possible for black people or Spanish, get rid of the mixed blood people that you know of. Anyone who's half black, half Spanish, or even more, kill them first, because they're the ones to get rid of, and that will be the beginning of the divide. So if you really want to fight, there won't be nothing in between that will hold you back. That is the true way to destroy. But this is what's wrong with our communities. We care more about the streets than we do about the people. Because if you've been watching across the country, most of the violence has been black on Spanish or black on white. No, in the reverse. We kill ourselves more than anyone else, and nobody wants to hear it. The only thing they want to do is do riots, or do protests, or do marches on having civil rights. Our own people's killing people and hurting them. We're the ones that's doing it. Please see this, ladies and gentlemen. We are destroying ourselves. Stop using the street mentality as your excuse for this. Trayvon messed up. George Zimmerman messed up. George Zimmerman had the right to kill Trayvon. No matter how much we don't want to see a young 17-year-old boy die, Trayvon had options to run away, to call the police, to knock on doors, or just scream at the top of his lungs in that gated community, "Help me, call the police." Listen to my words, please, ladies and gentlemen. This is the truth. And if you're not willing to accept this as the real truth of what's going on in this country and what we're doing, then we have already lost. No matter how many people you try to teach, Miss Nappy Original Girl, including your son, if you can't see it as well as I do, that it's the streets the culture that we created to deal with what happened after the civil rights movement collapsed. When we didn't care anymore about our civil rights. That we just wanted to disappear and try to forget that our leaders were killed. Then we have lost. You have lost your son because you never know what could happen to him. He could grow up to be a perfectly good kid just like my own son. And still could get hurt or killed by someone who was raised differently, who follows the street mentality. Trayvon Martin's a perfect example of that. Because he had the ability to run away or call the police or ask for help from anyone nearby. But he chose not to because the gangs, the street mentality is exactly the same. Anybody's following you, you shouldn't let them punk you out, fuck them up. That's what he basically did. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. And see that I'm not insulting anyone, including you, Miss Nappy Original Girl. Like I said in the last video, I commend you for actually doing a video talking about the kids you want to train. I commend you for being a teacher. But this is the truth. This is what we got. And if we can't stop the streets from invading our culture, then there's no point in having a culture, and forget about there ever being a future. So I hope you gain something from this Zane's other view. And if you wish to subscribe and comment to a wrestling channel, please do. But know that I only do these very rarely. And Miss Nappy Original Girl, I commend you for caring about the young. I commend you that you want to know what you want to say for your son. Please see what I'm saying. I'm not saying to forget the streets. But I am saying that the streets should not be a part of our culture. It's destroying us. If we don't stop, there is no future, no matter how many kids you train. The streets will destroy everybody. Young, the middle-aged, the old, and the senior citizen. That's what's killed us. Have a good night.